Florida has both problems and promise. Problems include the collapse of the housing market, higher than national average unemployment, education issues, and the need for better mass transit. Many, if not all of these, are affected by the national economy. The promise includes the fact that South Florida is America's gateway to South America and new markets. We are the 21st century's melting pot at the center of America's rapid growth of a Hispanic population. With us today to talk about these and other issues facing Florida, and especially South Florida, is the governor of our state, Rick Scott. I'm Debra. Let's meet the governor. Governor Scott, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here today.
It's nice being here.
And it's good to see you again.
Nice seeing you.
Yes.
You look good today.
Thank you. You look well as well. I like the boots. I was
yeah.
saying to you before we went on camera that I like them very much.
They're fun.
They're fun.
My job is to promote the state.
Yes.
Make sure everybody understands this is the best place to live, work, and play in the world.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks.
We love to start at the beginning so that our viewers get an understanding of really who you are. And I think this is such a great opportunity for them to really meet their governor and know a little bit about you. So I know that you were born in Illinois and raised in Missouri. And I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing. I know your dad was a military man. He drove a bus and a truck, and your mom worked at JCPenney. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and that time of your life.
Well, I had great parents. I never knew my natural father, but my mom got remarried. I think within a year after I was born. She got divorced right after I was born, I think. And they don't tell you everything back then. Mm-hmm. But I'm blessed. I lived in public housing. I went to public school. I was living in Champaign, Urbana. I was born in Bloomington, Illinois. Then my dad got a better job as a truck driver in Kansas City, Missouri. And I've just been blessed. Met my wife my last semester of high school. I always joke her that it was the best day for her, and for me it was the best day. But I went to community college, joined the Navy, got married at 19. So this year we'll be married a long time. We both were 19.
You're not going to tell us how long, huh?
Yeah, it'll be 40 years in April. April 20th is our anniversary.
Congratulations.
My wife looks way younger than I do. But I got out of the Navy. I had a great experience in the Navy. My dad was in the 82nd Airborne, so I had a great relationship with him when we could talk about our military experience. Mm-hmm. Then I bought my first business, a donut shop. My wife and I are both working full-time and going to school full-time, so my mom could have a job. But we had fun in the donut business. I sold a lot of donuts.
So you set up that business for your mom actually to manage? Oh,
yeah.
And how did that work out for all of you?
It worked out. So we started with one donut shop, and she needed a job at the time. I still had two younger brothers and a younger sister at home. And so Ann and I, my wife and I, we would work whenever we could. So we worked, sometimes we helped cook, sometimes we helped sell the donuts. I went out and got our wholesale accounts, so we could always have revenue every day. My dad helped a little bit. He could deliver a little bit, but he had a hard time because he had bypass surgery really young. But it was fun. All these things were fun, and it worked out.
With the military background, you got up early to make those donuts, so you had that training in you, huh?
Well, it was so funny. We started, I think this will be off a little bit, but I think we started baking at 3 o'clock in the morning when I first bought the shop. And then within about a month or so, we had to start baking like by midnight or earlier because I'd sold so many donuts wholesale. My mom told me, don't go out and sell any more accounts.
No more.
So, but everything in my life, we've had fun.
Yes.
I have a great family. I've been blessed. I have 2 daughters. Now have a grandson who's 3.5 months old, and his father-in-law is French, so he has 4 names: Auguste, Philippe, Richard Guimard, although in France, when they go visit his grandparents there, it'll be Auguste Philippe Richard Guimard.
Oh, and is he beautiful? He must
be
beautiful.
Yeah. And he's smiling now at 3.5. You forget, because my daughters are 26 and 29, you sort of forget when they get their eye color, when they can sit up. Both my daughters walk. One walked about 9 months, and the other one was about 12 months. So it's just fun.
Everything goes fast.
Way too fast. But it's fun.
It is fun, and you know what? When it stops being fun, you have to do something else. So being a grandfather is just a joy in your life, I'm sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about you. You have a wife for many years, your childhood sweetheart, two beautiful daughters, a grandson, and you built your fortune with your wife in the health industry. It seems like the American dream. You went from government housing to living in the
housing.
back to government housing.
A little bit nicer.
Yes, and typical of the American dream that we talk about. That some people think is gone in this country. What made you decide to go into politics when everything seems so settled in your life?
Oh gosh, you never know, why you think the way you do. But in my case, I've lived the American dream. What I wanted to accomplish, and you worry about your kids and your grandkids and other people. Are they going to have that same dream? If we have a country where, in a state where taxes are high, regulation is ridiculous, too much litigation, then what's going to happen is there's not going to be jobs in America. And I believe we're going down the path where we're killing jobs in this country. When President Obama got elected, I organized a group called Conservatives for Patients' Rights, because I believe that we need to reduce the cost of health care. And instead of just focus on insurance, we've got to pick the drivers, and the free market could do that. And make sure people know what the health care costs. Give them the same tax breaks as employers so they buy your own policies, so you don't have to worry about pre-existing condition. There's ways to fix healthcare. And then when that passed, I said, we're not electing principled enough people. And so I said, I'll see if I can do it. I believe in the American dream. I want the same dream that I've had, the same opportunity I had in my life. Everybody ought to have that opportunity.
Right, because you're living the American dream, which is wonderful.
We're very fortunate in this country.
We are fortunate. We are. You've been in office for a little over a year, and how are things going? Is it what you expected it to be, or?
It's always a little bit different than what you expect, because if you've never done it before, clearly there's more media. But what you worry about is your family. So my wife loves what she's doing. She works with foster kids. She visits schools and focuses on literacy and nutrition. She just had a couple of days ago. She went and had dinner at a Boys Town in Tallahassee with all the girls there, and she had the boys come and eat at the mansion a while back. So she loves what she's doing. So my family, it's been nice for them. And the things I ran on to get our state back to work, it's working. I mean, unemployment's dropping. We're the fastest drop in unemployment other than one state last year, 2.1%, 141,500 private sector jobs. And the way I think about it, that's 141,000 families that are better off, because they have one of the parents that didn't have a job has a job now. So I feel good about that.
Yes, but we still have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country.
And 900,000 people out of work.
So what do you
we
say?
have a lot of work left to do.
We have a lot of work to do. What do you say to the people who are so frustrated, who are really trying, who are out there just knocking on doors and doing all the right things? What do you say to them to give them hope?
Well, you've got to believe that America is the greatest place in the world. That we will solve these problems. In our state, I know we're solving the problems, and we're heading in the right direction. We've reduced taxes. Here's the way I think about it. I think my job is three things. And I sort of try to think of everything I do around those three things. Think about your family. Your family, you care. You want your children to get a great education. You want them to be able to get a job.
I don't want to pay for it, but
yeah,
I want them to get a great education.
And you don't want it to go up in cost,
exactly.
Right? So you want them to be able to get a good education. You want to be able to get them to get a job and you to get a job. And you want the government not to raise the cost of living. So that's how I think about it. So like this year, I'm making sure with the House and the Senate, we're going to put $1 billion more into K through 12.
Yes.
I'm making sure our higher ed is focused on. I want you to get think about your children. I want them to get degrees in areas where they can get a job. And they should know that. They want to go. They didn't go to school just to go to school. They went to school to get a job. So let's make sure they know where the jobs are. I want to make sure that the businesses in Florida can do better than businesses any place else in the world. If that's true, we'll have plenty of jobs here. And I don't want government to say, oh gosh, I've got the best idea, so I'm going to raise your cost of living because I'm going to go spend some money a certain way. I think if we do that, we're going to have plenty of jobs. I wish it happened in a day. It's going to take us a little longer, but we are heading in the right direction.
Well, a lot of the young people, kind of went out of state for a while to go to college. I know my kids did. What are you doing to keep the kids here in the state to, help them? I know that you, we were talking about the administrators in the universities, how you really oppose their increase in their salaries. What are you doing to really help keep the education at the level that it really should be for the universities here?
Well, the first thing is we've got to keep our tuition as low as possible. We've got to make sure our universities are very focused on making sure that the degrees that people are getting degrees in, there's jobs. So I'm very focused on making sure, whether it's our state colleges, our universities, we measure. And the way I think about it is their job is to position their students in a position to get a job. So where are the jobs? Talk to the employers about where the jobs are. Talk to employers about what training, what sort of education they are looking for. So our students at whatever university or state college they're going to, they get a job, including our high schools. You know, not every high school student wants to go to college. If they don't, you know, part of their high school training should be a vocation so they can go get to work. So I think focusing on all those things, we are moving the state in the right direction. I don't like tuition increases. I like, first, let's focus on, like every family. I can't imagine many families in Florida that haven't had to say, look, we're not going to do the nice to haves, we're going to do just the must to haves right now. We're going to reduce our cost of living because we're worried about a little bit about the future.
And for those who are upset about the fact that you're not going to allow the tuitions to be raised or the salaries for the administrators to be raised, what do you have to say to them?
Well, you know, the way I look at it is, you know, I don't control anybody's compensation at the universities. It's their job to make sure they spend the money well. But I do believe that the goal is for them to tighten their belts, just like every other Florida family, probably most all businesses in Florida have done. Look at all the ways that they can save money. You know, because if in business you have to do it, you know, you can't raise your rates every year, 8% or 15%, because your customer eventually walk away from you. So our universities or state colleges, they have to do the same thing. It's not easy. It's all hard.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No.
Let's talk a little bit about housing and the real estate market. It's no secret that Florida has been hit very, very hard and continues to be struggling with the housing market. I know I sold my house just a little while ago. We were living in it for 10 years. Years ago, your home was your greatest investment. You counted on that when you retired. Can't do that anymore today. And again, there are people who are really struggling, people who have lost their jobs, who can't afford their mortgages, older people who want to retire and perhaps move into adult facilities that can't sell their homes. What do we say? When can they expect for this market to change?
It's all about jobs. It's all about, here's the positive. The positive is people want to move to Florida. They want to live in Florida. I mean, if you tell people you're the governor of Florida, they're sort of, other governors are sort of jealous. That, they know this is the greatest place in the world to live. So we have people wanting to move here. And as you know, the Census Bureau said that 250,000 people moved here in the 15 months ended last June. So people are moving back here because they know it's such a wonderful place. No personal income tax, a right to work state, more jobs, 141,500 private sector jobs. So, but the key is going to be more jobs. As we have more jobs in Florida, housing will do better. Now, last year we had a big increase in housing sales. The 8% increase in existing home sales. My home, Naples, I think they're at a 5-year low in the houses on the market. So we have some pockets that are doing well. Latin America is coming in and buying a lot of South Florida, which is positive. So, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. So you're telling them just hold on for a little while longer.
Yeah, okay. We're heading in the right direction. It's a lot better than a lot of places. It's never good enough, but it's just like jobs. We've made a lot of progress. We still have a lot of work to do.
Are you frustrated with anything that's happening with you being in office? Is anything really frustrating you right now that you feel is a real struggle for you?
No, sometimes you think that some of the issues that go on through the legislature would be easier decisions, because I don't know anybody that doesn't run for office, and they all say this, and this is not a partisan decision. Nobody likes tax increases. Nobody likes regulation. Everybody wants to get rid of frivolous lawsuits. Well, then it seems like if everybody voted that way, it would be a little bit easier. But we're making progress. I had a good first session last year. Basically, everything I ran on, we got passed. It's working. The jobs are coming back. This session, I'm focused on reducing business taxes so businesses do better in Florida. The $1 billion into K through 12, the reducing 1,100 regulations, and the other thing that's big is PIP insurance. We have $1 billion.
Fraud. Is that what you're talking about?
It's property insurance. It's personal injury protection insurance. You have to buy it if you own a car because you have to have insurance. In some parts of the state, to buy $10,000 worth of coverage, you have to spend $1,500 per year. That doesn't make so much sense. We have providers that take advantage of this program. Think about this, we've had a reduction in the number of auto accidents, I think, every year since 2007. And your auto insurance rates are going up. That doesn't make sense. So we're now the #1 state for something which we should not be proud of. Staged auto accidents.
Sorry, I was listening to your address on the radio talking about the insurance frauds.
It's so frustrating because if you think about it, it impacts the poorest family the most because they have to have a car to get to work. They have to pay for this. People fake accidents. They say they're in accidents when they're not. They say they're in a car accident when they're not. And there's lawyers that take advantage of this to make money, and it just impacts the poorest person the most. So we've got to fix it. I'm optimistic that both the House and the Senate, they both have bills. I'm optimistic at least that they're going to come together and have a good bill that will crack down on this fraud.
And you said it's a no-brainer. If our kids were looking at this, it's a no-brainer to save $1 billion.
$1 billion. And so if I could reduce your taxes $1 billion, you'd think pretty highly of me. Well, this is $1 billion tax in essence, because if we stop this fraud, it'll be $1 billion back into consumers' hands, the families in the state's hands, and so they can afford their food, their cars, their homes better.
And what do you feel you're most proud of so far in this year and a half in office?
Probably most proud of as a grandson, but if it was not my family, because I always think about this when I'm 80 years old, what I'm going to be happy about. Hopefully, I've stayed married all that time, happily married, because I love my wife, and I've got great daughters, have a relationship with them, and have some great grandkids, and then have a few friends, and have tried to do things. That's so. But I think the most proud of would be the fact there's 141,000 people that didn't have a job when I came into office that now have a job. That's probably the most proud. I'll tell you, I really like the people I work with. One thing that you find in state government, the people that work there are really good people. They really want to do a good job, and I really enjoy the people I work with.
Well, that's beautiful. I think that's great. That helps. I mean, if you work with people who are, supportive to what you want to do, it helps get things done. Anything that you wish you would have done differently or could do differently?
Well, I think anything, you always know that you can explain what you're doing better, And, it's like the 10th time you get asked something, you have a better way of explaining why you're doing something. So I think, I think that you get better the longer, or at least I get better the longer I'm in office, explaining why. The benefit of reduced taxes, how that adds to jobs, the benefit of less regulation that's killing jobs, that adds to jobs, the benefit of getting rid of frivolous lawsuits, that adds to jobs. So I think that I've done better. I'm always trying to think about how I can constantly improve how the state operates, which is fun because I like the people that are there.
You like the challenge?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, people ask me if I like the job. I love this, and here's the reason why. This job, you have to love it because you get to have a positive impact on people's lives. One, you get to meet, I meet probably 3,000 people a week at least in person, and you get to hear their
diverse group of people too.
You get to hear their stories, and their stories are all about their families, And now there's some tough things I've done. I've gone to 11 funerals for law enforcement officers. I've gone I talked to families that have lost their loved ones in the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. That's tough. And the families that have been impacted with these law enforcement deaths. We've lost 11 in the line of duty since I've been governor. That's pretty tough.
That is tough.
But we have the positive is we have a very good Attorney General, Pam Bondi, CFO Atwater, Jeff Atwater, and Adam Putnam, Commissioner. So it's good people that I'm working with every day.
Well, I worked for the Salvation Army years ago and helped to build a homeless shelter here in West Palm. I notice now, it's not hard to notice, the homelessness in South Florida particularly and all over the state has really increased. And what I've noticed, it's like a different face of homelessness. It's not really just the man standing on the corner anymore. It's families, and I've read that 40% of the homeless are families.
Oh, I bet that's right.
And so what are we doing to help these people who are homeless? I know there's not enough shelters. Yeah. I know there's not enough places for them to go. What are we going to do to help them?
I went on Thanksgiving, my wife and I went and delivered food. We worked at a homeless shelter in Naples, our hometown, and you saw these people that had nice jobs, 4 years ago, and they've really struggled. If they've gotten a job, they've struggled to get a job that pays as much, because we were a nice, fast-growing economy. Our unemployment 5 years ago, I think, was 3.5 or 3.6. So a lot of people have been hurt. The biggest thing we can do for them is, one, what government can do is create an environment where people will build their companies here. That's what government can do. Government can also have good safety nets. So whether it's their Medicaid program for those that can't afford health care, or if they're disabled, things like that. So I think that's very important. To do that, we can't waste dollars. We got to make sure the dollars are well. Then the rest of it is, the nice thing about Florida, we have individuals that do care about our state and our communities, and they do give, and they show up, and they serve. Like, I know at the homeless shelter I served at on Thanksgiving, they had too many people that wanted to work. So that's positive. We also see examples where people are building homes for the Habitat for Humanity. So that's positive. And the nice thing about Florida is it's nice people that want to do things for people. But right now there's high need. So it's really tough.
And for the children too. I mean, I feel for them when they're getting pushed from one motel to another and not able to concentrate on their schooling. You lived in government.
Foster kids.
And, foster kids.
I mean, you look at, I think Dave Wilkins runs Department of Children and Families, and he and his wife work. She works just as hard as he does. So she doesn't get paid anything, but she travels with him. She goes to. So he's trying to be, because whether it's somebody that's homeless, that's living in a motel day to day, or if it's somebody that's living in foster care or an emergency shelter, things like that, there's a lot of need in the state.
And it's very diverse, the needs. I mean, there's veterans that are homeless. I mean, a lot of veterans in South Florida that are homeless.
We are, the unemployment rate for veterans right now, or for returning veterans from these wars, is over 30%.
In Florida, yes.
Yeah, in Florida. We have 1.6 million veterans in our state. We're the third biggest state as far as veterans. And you travel the state, you talk to people that are struggling. And so, and some of them, like I did with CFO Atwater, we did these town halls on PIP, this auto insurance issue, and you talk to some of the elderly, and they're scared to drive. So there's so many issues that you deal with, but then I'll tell you the positive is, this is a state that people care. They do a lot of things. We got a lot of work left to do. We're not out of the woods yet, but you can see a more positive attitude.
We talked about foster care, and we just did a show on children who age out of foster care. Yes, and that's
not easy.
That's not easy. No,
it is not easy at all.
Well, yeah, because 18 years old, we take these children, put them in homes, keep them safe, hopefully safe. And our intentions, I think, are wonderful and good to do the right things for these children who don't have families. But then at 18 years old, they age out of the system, and 1 out of 3 of those children who age out, I mean, they're high school students. How could they live on their own? They end up homeless, pregnant, a lot of them in jail. Why is the age so young for the aging out in the state? I mean, shouldn't we increase that? I mean, I know my children, I know your children, we have older children, and it seems that they're still not so independent, I mean, I have a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old, and we're still their safety net. It's not that they're not independent and growing, but we're not helicopter parents, but we're still their safety net. What do we do for those young people?
Well, they're adults, so they have rights as adults. My wife just went and had dinner at the Boys Town with the girls there, and I think she said some of them were going to be leaving soon because they were turning 18. There was she said there was a place for them to go. So that's a lot. Local communities are doing a lot of good things in that area. They still need a lot of support. They haven't gotten the education they need yet. They still need mentors.
Yes.
And
this is a soft spot for you. I mean, you lived in government housing. You were adopted. Is that correct? So, this is definitely something that you care about. It just seems so challenging to do something about it.
And what's devastating about this is, they've a lot of times they've been around abuse. They've been around alcoholism. They've been around drugs. They don't see a path. I think that what my parents did for me, which I think it's hard for somebody that doesn't have that, is that as hard as it was, you could see a path. You know, that you could succeed. I think one thing I try, I had the opportunity to teach 3 hours of high school, 2 hours of middle school, and 2 hours of grade school out in Immokalee, which is, you know, a rural community outside Naples. And one thing I wanted to make sure these kids know is there is an opportunity. You can't, but it's hard because they don't have a role model. A lot of people, a lot of kids, they don't see a path. And the biggest thing we can do for people is mentor them and show them there is a path to success. And the path to success is not alcoholism. It's not drugs. It's doing the right things, getting the best education you can, working, learning how to work. But it's the hardest thing is families. And these kids.
What would you say to these children if you could see one of them in front of you right now? If they were like looking in the camera, what would you do to give them that hope that you want them to have to be able to continue on, to be healthy and have a good future?
I think the biggest thing is they've got to do everything they can to surround themselves with good people. Be involved in their church, their synagogue, or something like that. Do whatever you can to continue your education. I mean, get a job and work for the nicest person you can that's going to treat you with respect. But do everything you can to surround yourself with people that are doing the right thing. Do not because it's a slippery slope.
Exactly.
I mean, we all growing up, sometimes we feel like we are so fortunate because we saw people do the wrong thing, and it does impact you.
Right.
And but it's hard if there's nobody there, because for all of us we had problems.
Yes.
Fortunately for me, I had good parents, and I was fortunate enough that I married a wonderful person, because it's not easy.
Right. Well, I told them when I met with them that you have a story. It's part of who you are. It doesn't have to define who you are. So I think that's an important message for them. We are running out of time, believe it or not, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, being that WXCL is the local PBS station here in South Florida and the Treasure Coast. I know they cut, making my job very difficult, which is, a challenge for me as well, and all of us who work for public television. Any chance of the funding being reinstated, restored?
We talked about this yesterday. When I went through the budget last year, I said, look, we have to get we had a $4 billion budget deficit, so I said we've got to get a return on all those dollars. And so what they were explained to me last night, I haven't seen the numbers yet, but there is a return. There's value in it for taxpayers, because that's my responsibility to taxpayers.
Right.
And so I think right now there's funding. I think the funding is different a little bit, but not much, in both the House and the Senate budget. So,
well, now that you're a grandfather, I'm sure you raised your children on Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. I want you to be able to raise your grandson on that same wonderful programming. So I'll be looking forward to some hopeful and positive news from you, and I hope you'll come back and join us again. And
I will.
And I know that our viewers really had more of a chance to get to know you and meet you a little bit and know your story. And so I want to thank you for sharing your time with us and for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Nice being with you.
I'm Debra Tornabin. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.